So welcome all. So what we will do today is that, remember, we started dealing with the perfect competition, and we learned what is the short run supply curve, right? So we were actually dealing with the supply curve, where does that supply curve come from? So we were dealing with that, and we got the supply curve, remember, for the very short run. We got the supply curve for the short run because firms' behavior was different. Okay, a firm would like to maximize profit in the short run and also in the long run. That's for sure. But the issue is that, like the behavior is different when it's short run compared to when it's long run. Okay? So what we will do is that we're going to see the long run decision of the firm today. But before that, you'll see why this is needed. So before that, let me actually write down a property of the profit function. Okay? And you'll see why this is going to be useful. Okay? So remember profit function. So remember the profit function. It was a function of what? Profit function that we derived. Remember, this was also a value function. So it was the solution. So basically, it was giving us the maximal level of profit, right? So when firm maximizes its profit, decides on optimal amount of capital and labor, right? And what was the profit function? Was a function of what? So it was wage, right? So if we have two inputs, wage R and P, right? So this was, remember, profit function. Okay? Now, this was a function of, and remember, profit function was, so we can actually write this down, let's say for a price-taking firm, right? So this is what we had, F of LK minus wage times L, right, minus R times K, right? But the issue is that this was profit, but when it's profit function, we were putting the optimal amount of capital and labor, right? So basically you can put stars here, and then we also know these optimal amounts, so this is like a review. Remember, how did we call these optimal amounts? L star and K star, these were functions of what? Wage R and price, right? And these guys were called what? We called them, these were input demands, right? But we called them, were they conditional or unconditional ones? Unconditional, right? So because they weren't conditional on a particular amount of output level, right? So we call them unconditional input demands. Okay? Now, so fine, this is the case. Now, let's try to understand one characteristic of this profit function. So here's my claim. I claim that profit functions are, so a property, so this is my claim. So let's say this is my claim. So I say that profit functions are non-decreasing, okay, in output price. Okay? So profit functions are non-decreasing. So you can think that increasing, like in output price P. So do you think this claim is correct? So what does that mean? It means that when P increases, right, it says that profits are not, the maximal amount of profit that you're going to make is not going to be decreasing, right? So maybe it stays constant, or maybe it's going to increase, but it's not going to decrease, right? Do you think this is correct? So how can we figure this out? So let's say why. It's not a formal proof, but again, I'm going to give you the intuition. Someone said no. Why? Okay, so let's try to see, okay? So suppose when price is P, okay? Suppose that the optimal amount of labor and the optimal amount of capital that you use, okay? So wage RP are these, okay? So what is profit? In this case, wage RP is P times, right, F of L star K star minus wage times L star minus R times K star. Okay? So this is the case. Now suppose P is some new level. Okay? And suppose P is larger, P new is larger than this P, this old P. Okay? So suppose I'm the firm. Suppose I don't change my input demands. I don't change my L star and K star. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to my profits? Suppose we know that these were optimal for this case. Okay? But now I'm not going to use the optimal ones, but I'm going to use still these guys. Okay? K star. And remember, these are not optimal for this new price level. But suppose I insist, I'm stubborn, so I insist on using the old levels. So my profit will be what? Wage R P new, right? It's going to be P new times F of L star K star minus wage times L star minus R times K star. Okay? So what happened to my profit? If I don't use the optimal, so if I don't re-optimize, right, because now there's a new price, so I should be solving the problem all over again, right? Or I should just plug my P new in my profit function. But let's actually put this, this is not exactly the profit function. Let's put it like this, right? Because I'm not using this L star, K star are not the optimal ones with P new, right? So what happened to my profit if you compare this guy and this guy? So this guy is the same, this guy is the same, these are the same, right? So this part is the same. So your production, because you didn't change your capital and labor, it is also the same. So what happened? Your profits, they have increased, right? So you see that even in this case, you see you do not optimize your profits increase. So if I optimize, do you think this is going to be larger or smaller? Larger. Right? Because now here I'm not even using the profit maximizing level of L star and K star. And suppose I'm using the profit maximizing level of L star, K star, then it's going to be much higher than this guy, right? That's why I put here pi tilde, meaning that the real, like profit function with P new is different from this guy, right? So you see that when price increases, your profits are not decreasing, okay? They might stay the same or they're going to increase, okay, for sure. So did you get the intuition? So this is just it's not, although this is not a formal proof, but the whole idea is this, okay? So basically your profits increase if you optimize, they will increase even further, okay, even more, okay? So hence this claim is apparently correct, okay? So just keep this in your mind. When price increases, profits increase, okay? Or they're not going to decrease because it is going to help us when we consider long run, okay? So just keep this in your mind. So it turns out that this claim is correct, okay? Now, fine. So now let's come to the long run, right? So remember, there was this third thing that we wanted to figure out. Long run supply of a price taking firm. Okay? Now let's see this. Okay? So the long run supply of a price taking firm. Okay, so we would like to figure this out. But before, remember, let's talk a little bit about long run, right? So what's going to happen in the long run and what is different between short run and long run. So this is what we did. So consider this. In short run, this is what we said, right? In short run, what was fixed? So in short run was a period of time when we couldn't change a lot of stuff, right? So what was this? So it was, what was fixed in short run? capital, right? One of the inputs, it was fixed, okay? So there exists a fixed input, okay? And what else? What did we say? And in short run, we said, what about the number of firms? Do you remember? It was also fixed, right? It wasn't changing. So there was a fixed input, and then we said that number of firms is fixed, okay? Now, in the long run, what's going to happen is that these fixed stuff won't be fixed anymore, okay? So all the inputs would be variable, okay? So this is basically no fixed input, okay? And also number of firms can change. There will be entry and exit. There is entry and exit of firms, okay? Now, so this is the case. That's why, for instance, in a perfectly competitive market, when we define the perfectly competitive market, we are going to say, referring to this, we say that there are no barriers for entry, okay? So like if you want to enter or exit, it shouldn't be very costly, okay? It should be costless. So this is basically what we say. So let's write this as a remark. In perfectly competitive markets, okay, entry and exit are assumed to be costless, okay? So we have no barriers to entry, okay? So they are assumed to be costless. So this is the characteristic of a perfectly competitive market, okay? And you see it refers to the long run. Then, you probably know this from your introductory econ classes, but even if you don't know, you can just figure that out. Remember, you are in the tomato production. Suppose you heard that, your cousin is actually making quite decent amount of money and they produce tomatoes, okay? Or you heard from your friend that if you go and sell simit at Kızılay, you make a decent amount of profit, okay, let's say. Then what's going to happen? Would you like to enter a market where you heard there are positive profits, or you don't want to enter? You will enter, right? So if, of course, you might say that, hocam, if there are costs, who's going to get the license to sell simit, right, from the municipality, blah, blah. So you see that this is an ideal case. This doesn't happen in real life that easily. But suppose it's pretty easy, okay? Then, of course, if there are positive profits, I'll go and I can work for a few days, sell simit at Kızılay and then make some money. And then, that would be nice. But I'm not the only smart one, right? So there might be other people. So what's going to happen? So this is actually what we said. So basically, so let's write this. As long as, okay, so there are short run, or let's say short run positive, let's put it like this. As long as short run profits are positive, okay? So you said that firms will keep entering, okay? Now, as long as, suppose, this is probably what's going to happen. If I enter any business, then they're going to make zero negative profits and whatever, right? So then I figured out that, okay, so I'm making negative profits in this business. So instead of, having some sort of an incentive to enter, the opposite will happen. Firms would like to exit that market, right? So they figure out that they cannot make positive profits, so they would like to exit, okay? So as long as short-run profits are negative, then we said that firms will exit, okay? So this is the case. Now, let's try to show how this is going to affect the market in the short run, right? What's going to happen? So because always just keep in your mind that whenever we talk about long run, okay, it is going to a long run equilibrium is going to have some sort of might have a transitionary period, okay? So during this, from one long run equilibrium to another long run equilibrium, there is this is what we call the transition dynamics, right? So whenever we talk about mostly long run, actually when we reach that equilibrium until that point, there are some stuff going on in that market, okay? So that's why, like we are going to call them the dynamics. So you see that it's not going to be just one move. So like, for instance, you're going to see that curves are not going to shift immediately. They will start moving and eventually they would be at some point, okay? So let's see. What is that? So we said that as long as these are negative, firms will exit, okay? So exit the industry or enter the industry. So let's actually have this. So this is I, this is double I. So what's going to happen, right? Suppose profits are positive. So let's put it like this. So what's going to happen? So we say that profits are positive, profits in the, bless you. So suppose short run profits are positive, new firms enter. Okay? So what's going to happen? So let me draw you the market, right? Remember, we know the short run supply curve of the market that we derived, right? So for the very short run. Now you'll see we're going to derive the long run one. But in order to derive the long run, we should always keep track of what's happening in the short run in this market and when will things stop moving, okay? So let's see, so this is going to be, let's put Q here, right? So this is, let's say, this is demand, and this is, let's say, supply short run, okay? This we know. Suppose initially, the price in that market is P0, and amount that was produced was Q0. Now, suppose in this situation, profits were positive. Now, new firms would like to enter, okay? So what's going to happen to this supply curve? So remember, in the short run, we said that number of firms is fixed. Now we allow for a significant amount of time so that firms can enter, exit, whatever they would like to do, okay? So then new firms enter, what's going to happen to this? So it's going to shift, right? It will start shifting. Let's say just Ayşe entered the simit market, it's going to shift, right? And then let's say Cem entered the simit market, it's going to shift, okay? So basically this is going to, so it will start shifting, right, as new firms enter. So what's going to happen to the price? What's happening? So as new firms enter, if there are no changes in demand, right, and the environment, then price it will start falling, right? So what did we learn about the profit? When price falls, what's going to happen to the maximal amount of profit, right? We said that when price increases, it was increasing. So when price is falling, then profits will fall as well, okay? So remember, they were positive, but now they will start falling. So when do you think this will stop? At zero, right? So this is, they're going to fall. When profits are zero, it is going to stop. So before, like thinking about this a little bit, let's check the other case, okay? So this is the other case. So we said profit short run, let's say it's negative. So what's going to happen? New firms, not new firms, no new firms, right? So what's going to happen? Firms will exit, okay? So then what's going to happen? So let's draw this, P, Q, right? So this is demand. So this is the supply short run. So this is the, like initial case, P0, let's say Q0. Right now, suppose profits were negative, so they will start exiting. So what's going to happen? This short run supply curve, remember this was the market supply, right? So it's like how many firms are there, it matters. So now the firms are exiting. What's going to happen to this curve? It's going to start shifting to the left, right? This is what we say, supply will decrease, okay? So it's going to start decreasing. And then when supply starts decreasing, what's happening to price? Price is increasing, right? So price here will increase. So therefore the profits were negative. When price increases, what was happening to the profits? Remember we showed they will increase as well, right? So this is going to be increasing, right? So this is going to stop. So things will improve, right? So for some firms who stayed in that market so that they won't have an incentive to exit. And this is going to stop when? When profits are zero. Because if they keep increasing too much, suppose too many firms exit, then we're going to be in this situation, right? So then profits will start being positive, then new firms will enter, and then profits will, so you see, that's why this is going to be this will be the long run, the condition for the long run equilibrium, okay? Because you see that when profits are zero, there is no incentive to exit or enter, right? So firms are kind of indifferent whether entering or exiting. But when profits are positive, there is incentive to enter. When profits are negative, there's incentive to exit, okay? That's why we're going to define, so because of this, you'll see that in long run equilibrium, profits are going to be zero, okay? So if someone asks you, what is the long run profit for these guys? You can say that in long run, profits will be zero. Of course, in this perfectly competitive market, okay? So this is going to be the case. Now, let me write this. So this is going to, let's assume that all firms are identical, okay? So this is going to be, I'm simplifying assumption, but as I told you probably in the very beginning of this course, that, like heterogeneity of firms is very important. This is actually what I also work on, that firms are not the same, okay? So incorporating that heterogeneity is very important, and it's going to explain some stuff that we see in real life, okay? Ignoring heterogeneity is might not be very, very smart all the time, okay? So just keep that in your mind here, but we're going to assume that all firms are identical. First, we need to figure out how things work with symmetric firms, right? Then we can extend it where things are actually a little bit different, okay? Now, what we will do is that, as I said, that let me write this. Now, assume all firms are identical. So we're getting to the long run equilibrium case, but you're going to see that we're going to have 3 different long run supply curves, okay? So, and each one of them is going to come from a different situation. So you'll see. So now we're going to assume all firms are identical. When they're identical, mostly what we mean is that their cost structures are the same, okay? So their costs are the same. All have same costs. And remember, your supply function, for instance, in short run, is basically your marginal cost. So therefore, they're all going to have the same supply curve, okay? So suppose this is an assumption, so we assume this, okay? Now, you see what we figured out. We didn't do anything, we didn't use any math, but we just, by logic, we figured out that in the long run, profits are going to be, so in long run equilibrium, profits are going to be zero. We said that firms should be making zero profit. Otherwise, it's not going to be an equilibrium because firms will keep entering and exiting, right? So there would be some flows going on, okay? So, but in the equilibrium, they're going to make zero profit, okay? Because only then no firm is willing to enter or exit, okay? Now, but when does this happen? Then remember we learned all these. That's why we draw, we paid so much attention in drawing those cost curves and such. We know that profits are zero. So the easiest way to see is that this is P times Q, and then you can always write total cost as let's say average total cost, right, times Q, and let's put it long run average cost, okay? So you see that if you take this into Q parentheses, so you guys told me that, hocam, profits are zero when prices are equal to average costs, right? So this is one thing that we figured out about the long run. So this was one thing. Sometimes this is called the zero profit condition. Sometimes this is called no entry exit condition, okay? So this is the case. So this is one thing that we figured out. But there's another thing. Don't forget that these are firms. They would like to maximize their profit, right? So they're not going to change that behavior. So they would like to maximize their profit. Therefore, they're going to act as if they're maximizing their profits, right? So basically, and what was the condition for that? It was, for a price-taking firm, price should be equal to marginal cost, right? So then we said that price should be equal to long-run marginal cost as well, okay? Now here, for this to happen, we know that price should be equal to long-run average cost. And then from here, this is due to the profit maximizing condition, okay? And the other one is called zero profit condition, okay? You see that there are two conditions apparently which defines long-run equilibrium. We know why that is the case. We figured this out, you know, like the dynamics, what's going on. But these are basically two conditions. And then we said that, well, this price should be both equal to average cost and it should also be equal to marginal cost. So basically, if you combine these two guys, we have something like this. Price is equal to long-run average cost. Price is equal to, should be equal to long-run marginal cost, which tells us that long-run average cost and long-run marginal cost should be equal to each other. And where does this happen? We know, right? So you said that, hocam, this happens, right? This happens at the minimum of long-run average cost, right? That's why we try to figure out, remember there, I told you that this point is going to be important in the future. So, and then you'll see that we're going to solve examples, okay, today during the review with these, you know, like with these, where these guys are in order to solve for the long-run equilibrium, okay? So because this is going to be the important point. So this happens at the minimum of the long-run average cost curve, right? So basically, long-run average cost curve. So this we know. So basically, from here, we can immediately figure out that the price in the long run is going to be, right, equal to the minimum of the long-run average cost curve, because that is where profits are zero. And we know that profits are zero, and then the firm is profit maximizing. Also, price should be equal to marginal cost. This is the only point where these two things are equal to each other, okay? So price is going to be this, and then for a firm, you're going to see that Q long run, right, long run quantity, optimal quantity, is going to be, so we can actually say that basically the quantity which is minimizing, right, this minimizing this long-run average cost curve, right? The Q, the level of quantity which minimizes long-run average cost curve, okay? So notation-wise, we can actually show it minimum long-run average cost, okay? So we can show it like this, okay? So you see, we figured out everything about all the characteristics of the long-run equilibrium, okay? Now we're going to see, as I said, that, but I still haven't drawn you the supply curve. So you ask me, hocam, what is the long-run supply curve of a firm? I still haven't kept my promise, okay? But we'll be very soon, we'll be there, okay? Now, this is going to be, okay, so now then let me write this again. What is the characteristic of a long run? So let's write the definition. Long run. Actually, let's put it long run competitive equilibrium Okay? So the definition of it is a perfectly competitive market, okay, is in long run equilibrium if there are no incentives for profit maximizing firms. But again, don't forget that. Meaning that you're making zero profit, it doesn't mean that you're not making any money, okay? This is zero, what we call economic profit, okay? So you might remember, again, you can be paying some money for you, yourself, for your dad, and for your workers, okay? So it doesn't mean that you are making a loss, because you see that we don't, here in the long run, we don't even allow for an economic loss. Up to some point, remember, we allowed it in the short run, but making zero profit, always keep in your mind that it's economic profit. So it, for instance, if you are working there, it is there, for instance, as your wage. It's not how much you are going to, like you are earning in that firm. It's as if you were working, let's say you finished econ, you're an econ major, you become an economist, you work with your dad, but let's say you could have worked at the treasury and earned much more money, okay? So then we usually write your, what was the best alternative use of you, right? So basically the value of your work, right? So like your wage should be whatever you would be earning if you were working somewhere else, okay? So basically just keep that in your mind that it's zero economic profit, okay? It's not making that you're not making any money at all, okay? So that's what we said. So if there are no incentives for profit maximizing firms to enter or to leave the market, okay? So we said that this will occur when, and whenever you're talking about an equilibrium, it's very important to define it, okay? So under what conditions this is going to happen, what are the assumptions, and what is the definition of the equilibrium, okay? So we said that this will occur when number of firms is such that, so remember, we know number of firms should be such that, so you see that short run supply curve should be, moving up to some point so that enough firms, let's say, should enter. Number of firms is such that price is equal, profits are zero, or in other words, price, let's say, is going to be down until a level, which is where long run marginal cost and long run average cost are equal to each other, okay? And the second one, each firm produces at Q min long run average cost, okay? So this we have written there. So the point basically which minimizes the long run average cost curve, okay? Basically, so you see that we know that each firm is going to produce at that minimum, level Q, which is minimizing long run average cost curve, and then price should be the minimum of the long run average cost, okay? That we know, okay? So this is basically the definition of the long run competitive equilibrium, okay? Now, again, remember, but I still haven't drawn you the supply curve, right? Now I will, okay? So let's draw one, and then maybe we'll give a 5-minute break, and then we'll continue, okay? So now you'll see that we're going to have 3 different supply curves for the long run. And I can tell you one of them will be constant, one of them will be upward sloping, as we know, one of them is going to be downward sloping, okay? So, and you'll see what what different structures leading to those different outcomes. Okay, so we'll see. So what's going to happen? Okay, now, so the first one that we're going to deal with is going to be called constant cost industries. Okay, so now the first one that we're going to assume is constant cost industries. Okay? So what does this mean, constant cost industries? So remember when we were talking about entry and exit, these firms were entering, right? And these firms were exiting. So do you think it's not going to change anything in this market? So like, do you think, for instance, I am, let's say, you know, your grandma's village, okay? So you wanted to enter the tomato market because there are positive profits, but you need some, you know, workers to, let's say, collect the tomatoes or deal with the, you know, like you know, like your land and such. You know, they need to help, and you go to the village, but everyone is working at some other farm, right? Now you entered. What would you do if you need some workers? What would you tell those guys? I'm going to give you more money, right? So you're trying to give them a little bit more and you would like to steal them, right? Now you see as more firms enter, there might be some, you know, like if, let's say, labor is scarce there, workers are scarce there in that village, then there might be a little bit of competition, right, to get those workers. So which might increase wages and which might, remember, so wages, rental rate, they were all embedded in the cost function. So they were all embedded in these average cost structures. Then what's going to happen? Suppose you entered and workers are not that much in that industry, so wages are a little bit higher. What's going to happen to the costs? They will increase, right? So all these average cost curves, do you think they're going to move up or down? Up, right? So you see that now all these cases that we're going to consider would be related to that. The first one is going to be easy. Now we're going to assume when new firms enter or when they exit, nothing changes, okay? So the cost structures are not going to change, okay? So now that is the first one. So let me write this. Entry and exit will not affect, okay? Do not affect prices, do not affect the prices of inputs. But as you know, you said immediately that that is not very, you know, not very realistic, right? It might change stuff. The prices of inputs, okay? Now, so firms will have exactly the same cost before and after the entry, okay? Entry and exit. Now, what I will do is that I'm going to draw two curves, two graphs in this case, but when we're going to have non-constant cost industries, I'm going to have three graphs. One is going to be firm before entry, one is going to be firm after entry, one is going to be for the market, okay? But now here, I'm going to have just one firm and one market, okay? So let's do this. So this is here, I'm going to put price, marginal cost, average cost, and you see short run, long run. Here I'm going to put Q, so I'm going to write a firm here, okay? And then here I'm going to draw, so this is basically, this is, as you can guess, this is going to be for the market, right? So total is market, right? So this is going to be market. So I'm going to put cap Q here to show that it's the total quantity, okay? And then again, we're going to have price, average cost, marginal cost, okay? Now, what we do, again, whenever we do any graphical analysis, and now things are going to change, so we're going to have an initial. So always plot the initial equilibrium, okay? So the initial long run equilibrium is going to be both a long run and a short run, right? Because things are stable, okay? So now let's plot that one. So I'm going to have long run, so let me have long run average cost, okay, average total cost. And if I want to draw long run marginal cost, how should I draw it? Should go through where? The minimum, right? It should go through the minimum. So let's have this long run marginal cost. Now I want to draw the short run marginal cost. Where will this pass? It's going to pass through where? Where? Again, remember the cost curves, the short run ones. So the long run ones was what? It was the envelope, right? It was like enveloping them from below, right? And all the short run curves they were actually lying above. So we know that also short run average costs minimum and short run marginal cost should go through, right? Short run average costs minimum. And then how does short run average cost touch long run average cost curve at this minimum point? It has to touch. Can it be tangent on one side or on the other side? No, right? Remember, so we draw this there. It also should go through like this, right? The short run average cost curve. And then the short run marginal cost curve should also go through this point, right? So now that we remembered, okay, another question. I'm going to draw the short run marginal cost curve. Do you think I should draw this flatter or steeper than this long run guy? Steeper. Why? Or they are the same? Why?
Because it's at least one fixed input.
Right, so always think of it like this. In short run, some things are limited. In long run, I'm more flexible. In which case do you think costs will increase much faster?
Short run.
Short run, right? So that's why you might want to draw it steeper. Okay, so you see that these are just graphs, but there are so many little details about them, okay, which are important. So I'm going to draw the short run marginal cost curve passing through, so it's going to be steeper, okay? So let me draw it like this. Yeah, so I'll draw it. Short run marginal cost, okay? But the issue is that they're all going through the minimum point, okay? Now, how can I call this minimum point? So I'm going to call this P0. Do you think this is an equilibrium? What is this? Right? If it's the initial, what is the initial long run equilibrium? That if I also want to draw the market, I should be careful. I should get that price because I know that the price in the market should be P0, right? Which is the minimum of the, so let's call this, and then if you want, you can call this E0, meaning that it's the initial equilibrium, okay? And then this is going to be P0, okay? So apparently I should draw my supply and demand curves, right? So in such a way. So I'm going to have my demand curve and I'm going to have my, this is supply of long run or short run? Short, I haven't taught you how to get the long run one yet, right? So this is the short run, okay? So this is basically, so this is, right? So this is basically the short run. So it's going to be both the long run equilibrium and the short run equilibrium, okay? So this is going to be the case. Now, so let's call this E0, okay? So, and I'm going to write this down. And let's put this Q0, okay? This is the initial situation. You can write this, hocam, this is the initial long run. If you want to, if someone asks you to draw this graph, then you're going to say that, hocam, this is going to be the initial long run and short run equilibrium, okay? Do you think things will change here unless there is some, force changing stuff? What do we mean by equilibrium? Are firms entering or exiting here? In this case? No, right? But because we know that if it's a long run equilibrium, things happen, they reach that equilibrium and, like now they stay there unless things change, okay? Now, so let me write this down so that you would have it nicely in your notes. So let's say this. So let's say P0, or let's call it E0, is initial long run equilibrium, okay? And then P0 is the initial price, okay? Initial price, okay? Long run, and we can actually call it short run, okay? And equilibrium both in the short run. P0 is the initial price, and we know this is equal to the minimum of long run average cost, okay? And then I can go here, so this is minimum long run average cost, and then I can go here, I can say Q star minimum long run average cost, right? So this is the amount that they're going to produce, and that's, if you want, call it Q0, okay? Now, so this is the initial price. So unless there is some change, this is going to continue. Nothing's going to change, okay? But now let me introduce a change here. Suppose somehow incomes increase, and now there is an increase in the demand in this market, okay? Suppose, so let's say this. Suppose D increases to D prime. Demand increases. Okay? Now demand is going to increase. So what's going to happen? Now I'm going to introduce this change. Now, do you think this market is going to be in the long run equilibrium? So what's going to be? Suddenly demand increases, right? And this is immediate. When this happens, right, it's short run. So this is the supply curve that they have. What will the price be? So let's actually put it like this. It's going to be here, right? So let's call this E1 if you want. So this is the new short run equilibrium, right? And let's see whether it's the long run equilibrium or not. I go here. I know that it's not. And then I know that firms are going to be profit maximizing, and they're price takers. They're going to take this price, and then they're going to set it equal to their marginal cost, and then they will start producing Q1. And then this is going to be the price. So what happened to the profits? Profits they increase, and like they were zero if they increase, right? Now they're positive, right? You can always go and check, so because this is the cost, right? The average cost, if you want. But of course, you shouldn't look at this one. You should go to the short-run average cost, right? But obviously, it's going to be, we know that, this guy is going to be here. We know that it's going to be above, right? So then you see that profits started to be positive. So they were zero, but now they were started to be demand increases. So we know that price, short run, let's call it price increases to P1, okay? So let's put it like this. Price increases to P1, right? And we know that at P1, profits are positive, right? So now profits started to be positive, and this is, let's call this Q1, right? And this is what they are going to supply. Then what's going to happen? Do you think this is going to stay like this? If you want, let me call this E short run. So that would be better, okay? Okay, so let's call this E short run, okay? You said, hocam, when profits are positive, we know the story, right? What is the story? What happens? When profits are positive, now what's going to happen? New firms will enter. Will start entering, okay? So new firms will start entering, then what's going to happen? Which curve is going to shift? Demand? No, supply, right? Supply short run will start shifting, right? So it will start shifting, and so you see new firm comes, so this will, let's call it prime, another firm comes. This is going to continue until when? Until, right, price, P0 price is reached, right? So supply, that's why we said that number of firms should be such that it would make sure that many firms enter, such that this short-run supply curve, okay? So let's put it prime, okay? So these are these ones, let's call it 0, you know, like these small ones, okay? So basically, so they will keep on shifting, right? And then this is going to, so they will end up when price is equal to P0, because we know that price is down again to this level, then there is zero profit, so no firms will enter, right? So this is basically the case. So do you think this guy is, so I go back in here, and then this is, let's call it Q2, okay? So do you think, so let me call this E2. Do you think E2 is a long run equilibrium? So then what happened? What has changed? So E2, so let's say new firms will start entering, and you know the story. S short run will go to S short run prime until P0 is reached, right? You can write down the story. And then until profits are again 0, or you can say, right? Until P0 is reached, then the new long run equilibrium point is E2, right? As you said, hocam, this is going to be E2. So, and I can say that this is E0, E2 here as well, right? We go back for a firm, back to the original place. Now, fine, okay, so this is the case. But what has changed in this market? So we went back. So each firm is also producing, again, Q0 or Q2 amount. Each firm is, the price is also P0. What has changed? The quantity, but where? Individual quantities have changed, or the market, right? So you see, so what happened? What has changed? From E0 long run equilibrium to E2 long run equilibrium, what has changed? Number of firms, right? That's it. Individual firms are producing the same. Price is still the same, right? In both of the long run equilibriums. The only thing that has changed is that, remember, new firms entered. They entered, they drove the profits back to 0, okay? But now we have more firms, okay? So that is the only difference. New long run equilibrium point is E2. Only number of firms is now increased. Yes? So the market quantity has changed, but this did not change. So it's basically, you can think of it N0 times, you know, you had Q star minimum long run average cost. Now there is N1, or you can call it N2. Q star minimum long run average cost, okay? So this is equal to, this was equal to Q0 before, this is now equal to Q2, okay? The only thing that has changed is the number of firms, okay? Q1 is a short run outcome. It cannot be sustained in the long run, right? Q1 is temporarily, they increase their output because there's a demand increase. They started making positive profits. But when other firms saw this, they entered the market, they started shifting. You see, that's why this is a dynamic process, right? So that's why they started shifting this, and only this is, they will stop entering, this will stop shifting, only this P0 is achieved, right? Only when that is achieved. Otherwise, it's not going to, okay? So this is basically the case. So this is very important, okay? So you're going to take other courses, but this kind of, you know, like long run, sort of this kind of dynamic behavior, that when things are going to reach an equilibrium, but what's happening in between, right? In between E0 and E2. Those are, both of them are long run equilibriums, okay? But suppose I keep doing this for any possible, you know, like change in demand or these kind of stuff, okay? So where do you think my long run supply curve lies? Where do you think that is? So this was one long run equilibrium, right? This was one long run equilibrium, right? Probably when demand was here, it was also going to be here, right? There was a larger shift it was also going to be here. So in long run, do you think we will be able to see a price other than P0? No, right? So that's why this is probably what you have seen. Now I'm keeping my promise, right? So this, you collect all these points. This guy is supply long run, okay? This is the long run supply curve of a perfectly competitive firm, okay? Of a price-taking firm. You see, what is this? This is perfectly competitive, perfectly, in terms of elasticity, perfectly elastic, right? So the long run supply curve is perfectly elastic, right? So this is basically, so in the constant cost industries, we're going to have, and when you have, price-taking firm, we're going to have a perfectly elastic supply curve, long run supply curve, okay? Now, you might say that, hocam, but in long run, we were also drawing an upward sloping supply curve. Now we're going to get that, okay? In this case, you'll see that that's not going to happen in the constant cost industry. It's going to happen in the increasing cost industry, okay? Yes? Yes. So here, which one? Yeah, so we put them the same. Yeah. So they are showing that for an individual firm, it's exactly the same point, and this is E2 and this is E0, okay? And both of them are long-run equilibriums, and of course, this is the short-run equilibrium, okay? So let's give a 5-minute break and then continue, okay? Because some of your friends might need to go. Benim de bir saatim yok, o yüzden bir saat bulayım ben.